talk a little bit about the iLinks platform, and then really focus on how we deliver that up through a self-service portal or a website, and then we'll get to the fun stuff. We'll do some demos of what that would look like, and then I'll wrap up. So when we talk about efficiencies and starting at your website, what we're talking about is leveraging the platform of capabilities that the iLinks product suite delivers. Now, hopefully you're familiar with this platform. If not, please feel free to reach out to us or check out the website. But iLinks provides some very robust capabilities to onboard content from basically anywhere, inside or outside your organization, put those into intelligent business processes to automate and streamline these transactions that are flowing through your organization, and ultimately deliver that information into our repository where it can be leveraged throughout the organization, and even apply retention management to that content so that it can be securely and properly managed and disposed of in a timely fashion. So once we have information onboarded into the system, wherever it resides in the business process or the repository, one of the key capabilities of the platform is to extend visibility out across those business processes out to your knowledge workers, your decision makers, and really allow you to leverage that critical information as these transactions take place. Facilitating real-time integrations with your back-end systems of record like ERP or CRM systems, financial systems, and whether you're pulling information from those systems of record into your workflow to facilitate better decision-making, or pushing information to those systems as a result of the processing that happens within your business process, either is possible and really increases the value of the information and of your business process, and delivering that information and ultimately wherever it needs to go downstream. Really the key bread and butter of the iLinks platform. So today what we're focused on is taking all of those capabilities and extending those either out into your organization, like to your employees, or even out beyond the firewall, out to your constituents, people involved in your supply chain, your suppliers and vendors, or out to your customers directly, and allowing them to do things like uploading content from any location, anytime, anywhere, interacting with you in your business process through a set of rich web forms, really enhancing that customer engagement element, and facilitating the self-service, which can take place any time of day, whether 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody inside the firewall is asleep, but your customers are awake and wanting to do business or check a status. So really that's our focus here is extending these capabilities. And so we use the word portal, and I think probably all of us are familiar with it, but I thought this was just kind of interesting. These are the Wikipedia definitions of a portal: a monumental gate or door. Okay, that's cool. The next one is great: a magical or technological doorway that connects two locations, dimensions, or points in time. So that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about a doorway that connects your back office out to your constituents, your customers, your partners through a set of magical or technological doorways. So we talked about getting content into your system, document uploading. You see on the right-hand side, there's a screenshot. This is an iLinks eForm, and in this case, it's just been configured to do not much more than just allow people to upload content into a workflow. So in this particular case, now you could incorporate this document upload on any eForm you wanted. This is just to show some of the document upload capabilities. But in this case, and in any case that you're using these upload capabilities, we virus scan this information before it hits your system. We can check for password protected PDFs and reject those. We limit the size of individual files and batch sizes. You can control the format of documents that you would accept, the number of uploads. So a lot of control over how this content comes in. We have CAPTCHA to make sure you're not getting spammed. And these documents can, once the user attaches and provides whatever metadata and hits the submit button, they're delivered directly into your business process in real time. And then from there, of course, they can go into the repository, a case folder, a downstream application, or whatever you need to use that content for. So let's talk about the eForms, iLinks eForms, web forms, and how they're different than what you may be typically using, like a static PDF. So our eForms are live throughout the workflow. So it's easy to put a PDF form up. Users can fill in their information and even hit submit, and it goes into a back-end process. But it's very difficult to make that PDF form really a living presentation layer for your workflow. They tend to be kind of a static file. It captures the inputs, but it's kind of a static set of information at that point. But not so with an iLinks eForm. These are live throughout your workflow. And based on my permissions and how my workflow and my eForm have been configured, I can continue to enrich and modify and change this information in this electronic form as it moves through the workflow. Now, at some point, I can generate a PDF and create an archive of that, but it's really important to get that these forms are live throughout your workflow. It's very important. We can also do things like database lookups, autofill information. We can help you to easily enforce complete and accurate information as you're kicking off these business processes, which is going to, long term, is going to really reduce that exception processing that always seems to occur on the back end, which are the very costly parts of the business process. These forms can dynamically hide and show individual fields, sections of a form, or if you're using a wizard-based form, it can even hide and show different pages. And I'll show you some examples of that here in the demo. Another aspect of eForms is you can create unlimited areas for input. So this is very difficult in a PDF. It's impossible almost in a paper form, but with an eForm, we can create tables that have any number of rows, and the user can continue to add and add and add rows. And similar with an input field, they can stretch that and put just about any size of information into that data. We can also collect signatures on the forms, and we have embedded payment processing as well. So that's great. We're getting content, we're getting document, we're getting a lot of rich information into our business process. But it doesn't end there, of course. We want to provide some self-service capabilities to the people that are submitting this information to us. So any time of day, they may have what is the status of my, and you fill in the blank there. So using some of these iLinks components, they can come into this secure environment, and they can get real-time information about their business process, where it is in the workflow. Now, you control that granularity of information that is displayed back out. Maybe you want something very, very high level. Maybe you want some very, very detailed information about where it is, and that's completely up to you. And all of this is data-driven. You're not creating custom code to show different pieces of information. It's just based on how you've defined your workflow, how you've defined your workflow views, and that is just presented up through these interfaces based on your security configurations. And you can also create these 360 type of collaborative engagement. So you're requesting additional documents, maybe for a loan or an application, or maybe the submitter just has a question, so they push a button and up comes a form, and they can request some maybe additional information or an escalation of something. And, we talked earlier about the flow of information, and typically information arrives in a repository or in an archival state. You can also provide access to your internal or external users through document searches. So we'll show some examples of this. Allowing them to come in and do some searching based on metadata, open those documents and deal with them however need be. And these can be anonymous or secured. So if you're thinking public documents, they don't have to authenticate. They can just hit a system, run some searches, use some documents, or they can be secured to a specific user or group of users. And this information is audited, so what they're doing in the system is audited, and of course all of this content can be placed under retention management rules. All right, now the fun stuff. Let me switch over here to my browser. So what you see here is an example government website that we have enabled with some of these iLinks portal components. So this is just, just an example site just to give you a feel of how these components play in this environment. So we talked about access to public documents. So we can do that in a number of different ways. We can expose content without requiring any search. These searches are wired up based on this, particular case here, cases of interest. Or we can allow the user to go ahead and provide some information. So I'm looking for a specific permit. I know the permit number begins with 2, and so I can run a search, find the document I'm interested in, and launch that to my desktop or download that. Examples of public records and public contracts, etc. Anything within your system that you desire to be exposed can be, placed up into your website without requiring user authentication. Similarly, we can grant access to unauthorized or unlogged users that are not logged into your system, access to eForms. So here you see a list of iLinks eForms in this component here, this eForm list component. So we've got an application for certification, a little DocuSign sample. We've got a public request form. So if I click that, I'm taken to a page that has the public records request form embedded inside this website, inside this web page. And so you can see it's a pretty rich form, not super extensive, but we can do a lot of things around ensuring that the information is collected properly, which is key to getting good information in your system, putting the onus on the form filler to make sure the information is correct. So, I'm going to fill something out. I've got some stuff cached here. Our name was required, so the form rejected that submission. Now, if I were to just put in gobbledygook here for the email and try to submit that, it's actually going to check that email and make sure that it's a valid format. So I can still put garbage in here, but it has to be in a proper email format. Now, the other thing I mentioned earlier was the ability to create dynamic regions within the form. So based on the user selection here, we're hiding and showing different sets of information based on the type of request this user is making. So a general request here, I've got a couple of big boxes, but if I do property related, then I've got a lot of different fields that I can choose to fill out here. And the logic to create this dynamic hiding and showing is all point and click. There's no coding involved. And I can incorporate a large set of form fields into an area, and then I can hide and show that with one small rule. So I don't have to create 1,000 rules, to hide and show a bunch of different fields. The other thing I mentioned was having the ability to dynamically expand these form regions. So I can grab this and I can put just about any amount of text in here I want. Again, it's pretty hard to do in a PDF form and very hard to do on a paper form. You have to attach or staple additional sets of information to that. So I can submit that. And at this point, all of that information that I've just input and any documents, if I have attached documents to it, is in my workflow immediately. And I have visibility inside my organization to the fact that that information has now hit my system. And I can report on that. I can interact with that information and start servicing that request immediately. So those were some public examples. Let's log in now to this portal. So I've got my John Doe user account here. Now, when John logs in, he sees a very different set of forms. These are eForms that are secured based on his role. So he's a business partner in my organization. I've set up these 4 forms that are exposed to my business partner group. And so John has access to these different forms. John also has access, if I go to the partners menu over here, to see a list of items that are in workflow that John has submitted. So I may have 100 other partners that are interacting with the system, but John's only going to see the information that is secured to him. So we have some quotes for services here. If I go back here, we can go down to this quote request eForm. and this is going to populate some information. So it knows, because I'm logged in as John, what my supplier company name is, Acme Technologies. So I can put in a job description of a quote that I'm looking for. So let's see, great software development. So I can go select a file. I'm just going to grab a random sample here. And again, we can control all of how this information is uploaded, virus scanned, etc. I can choose to automate email notifications as this moves through the business process. And I can submit that. Thank you for submitting my requote. Now, if John goes over here to his quotes in progress, what we're going to see is that quote, it's in real time, it's live, this is coming directly from the iLinks Capture workflow system. And again, you control what granularity of information is shown here to your partners or your users. Now, John can click this button and invoke that same quote request form right from here. This is just a pop-up, so it's a little different flavor of form presentation there, but it's the exact same form. So we talked about, as content and information flows through the business process, often it arrives in an archived state. So John can come over here too to his archived invoices and see a list of all of the invoices that have made it through the process, they've been approved, they've been paid, or maybe they've been denied. And John can click on these and bring these invoices up. But self-servicing, figuring out where things are in the process, maybe he's got a question about something, why he hasn't been paid on an invoice or why my application is delayed. It allows me to come into this environment and get real-time information without having to bother folks within the organization to go look up and find the status of that information. All right, now, typically, I'm logged in as John, who we've been talking about John as a partner, but we've also enabled John as an employee just so we can run through some different scenarios. So if John accesses the employee form list, he sees a completely different set of eForms. And that's because John is also a member of the employee group, and so he has access to position requisitions, expense forms, leave requests, etc. If I were to create a new eForm and assign it to his security group, it would just automatically appear here for John to interact from. So let's take a look at the leave request form, and we're going to put in 200 hours of leave. I'm going to start that tomorrow, and it's going to take me a month to do that. I'm going to go on vacation. Am I traveling outside the U.S.? No, I'm not. I'm going to submit that. Thank you for my leave request submittal. So now if I come over here as John, as an employee, and look at those leave requests that are in the workflow, I actually see my vacation request that I just submitted for 200 hours, and it's been rejected. It figures insufficient vacation hours. So it's just another example here. This time it's an employee that's interacting with the back-end system. As an employee too, I may choose to expose HR-related documents. So, okay, so I didn't get approved for my 200 hours. What's the next holiday? So I can come in here and view our holiday schedule for this year. So let me flip over here to just another website, and this is a completely different website, but it uses the exact same iLinks back-end system. So you can see that it's styled quite differently. It's much more colorful than the other one that we were doing. But it's the same set of eForms, the same set of workflow views, the same set of forms. Now, in this case, I see different data because I'm logged in as a different user. So the point here is that I can have multiple websites, but they all leverage the same back-end iLinks infrastructure in the same way. And so I'm managing, I'm maintaining. On the back side of this, on the back office, I'm interacting with the same workflows, the same set of views, but I'm exposing them in different ways and different shapes to my different sets of users and different groups of users. Okay, let's switch back over here. All right, so this is great, but you're probably thinking it's very complicated to get this set up, and that's actually not true. Within the iLinks eForm product, we have very easy tools to create these eForms. You see some screenshots there. We don't really have time to go into this in this webinar today, but if you have any questions, we'd love to show you this technology. We're very excited about this. And you can see we've got a ton of different, 30, I think, different form controls and widgets there. Through the demo, you saw several places where we were interacting with an address set of data. That's just a single widget. You drag and drop out onto your form, and it creates all of that address capability. It has built-in states. You can limit it to the U.S. We didn't really show the dates too much, but I have a lot of control over these dates. Maybe I, for a particular date, only accept dates in the future, or only accept dates in the past, or specific ranges, or do not allow them to schedule on the weekends or on specific holidays, and I get to choose what those dates are. So I can control a lot about this data input and this data collection just by setting properties and validation rules on these widgets. Just drag and drop, point and click type of validation. Very, very powerful. In the bottom right, you see our theme editor, which is also very powerful. It allows me to control backgrounds and borders and widths and edges and logos and all of the form element fonts and colors and bolds and shapes. So it allows me to create a look and feel that exactly matches whatever website I'm embedding them in. And if I have one web form, but I'm going to use it in two different websites that look very different, that's fine. I can, at runtime, tell the form which theme I want it to use to display. So it's the same form, it just looks a little different depending on where it's hosted. Also, if I create a brand theme for my company, I could create 100 different forms, and all I do is assign that theme to those forms, and they adhere to my set of brand controls, my logos and fonts and colors and things like that. And again, all of this is seamlessly integrated into iLink's capture workflow. If I have database lookups defined in my capture workflow system, I can just simply link them to a field on my form, and boom, that field gets a database lookup automatically. Drop lists that are assigned to a database set of values, those instantly are driven by a database in my eForm. So it's very, very closely tied to my workflow system. Okay, so that's great. So I've configured my eForm. I've got it looking pretty with the cool theme editor. Now, how do I get this into a web page? So integrating the eForms is just as easy as if you asked your IT guys to put a PDF document or PDF form up on your website. So you don't have to dissect the details here, but these are real examples. So the top one is, this is a simple link if I were to put a PDF document on a web page somewhere. And this is just a link that if you clicked, it would pop up that PDF document. The next bullet is basically the exact same thing, only it would link to one of these eForms we've been looking at. So it is very, very simple to get these eForms delivered out to your website, whether that's internal or external, whether those are secured or whether those are public forms. And we actually auto-generate the code for you. If you need a little help, we generate direct URL links, simple links that you can send in an email, pop-up links, JavaScript, PHP. So we generate that for you. You just copy that and paste that into your web page. So to kind of wrap up here, what we've seen is that providing this 24/7 access on any device, really, phones, all of our eForms are what we call web responsive, so they work great on a phone, small form factors. They shrink and cascade appropriately so that it's a very, very good user experience. And we can use those to extend our self-service out to our customers, our partners, our employees, et cetera. And that makes them happier. It's a lot easier to deal with the company if I can pull up my phone, hit a web form, submit some stuff, and then check the status of that 24 hours a day. And of course, by using eForms, we're eliminating a bunch of paper. And if we can eliminate paper and even eliminate some PDF forms, we can eliminate or at least reduce the amount of rekeying that we're doing. We're taking information from one source and we're typing it or moving it into another line of business system. So we're eliminating that or at least reducing that. And increasing productivity. We're improving data accuracy. We can speed the filling of these forms up. A PDF, it's hard to make it go get information from a database and fill out a dozen fields. It's super easy with an iLink's eForm. And of course, not only does it speed the filling of the form, but this information is coming from a system of record, and so the accuracy goes way up. As soon as that information hits the capture workflow, we have visibility into it. And not only the second it hits, but all throughout its life cycle, even into the archival state, maybe in a repository, or once iLinks hands it off to some downstream system, and we can report on that and create analytics around that and see where our choke points are, our bottlenecks in our process, and then get at to refining and tuning those processes to increase productivity and reduce our costs. And all of this is based on the iLinks platform, which helps us ensure compliance, HIPAA level type auditing, auditing across every activity that goes on in the workflow, whether it's internal or external. So that's a big help as well.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Randy, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.